Welcome back to our new story one, Blood Ties, a Mafia romance tale. Before chapter 1 begins, let the world whisper its secrets. In a realm carved by fate and fire, where hearts break louder than wars, and silence often speaks more than screams, there begins a journey unlike any other. This is not just a story, it's a heartbeat pressed between pages. A war of love, loss, loyalty, and the hunger for something more. Every word ahead will test your soul. Now close your eyes, breathe in, and step beyond the ordinary. The real story begins now. Chapter 1. Veins of Betrayal. The heavy scent of gunpowder hung in the air. Elena's heart raced as she stood in the dimly lit room, faces looming in the shadows. She had seen things tonight that would forever change her. Her brother Marco sat across the table, his expression unreadable, as if waiting for a storm to pass. She had always trusted him, but trust can be twisted by the weight of blood ties and betrayal. The night held secrets, and Elena was about to uncover them. "Do you even know what you've done?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marco's eyes darted to the closed door, then back to her. He looked tired, worn down by the life that had become their family legacy. Elena had fought for so long to escape this world, but it clung to her like a shadow. She could feel the pull of loyalty, the ache of love buried deep beneath layers of fear. "I did what I had to do, Elena," he said, his voice steady. "You think I wanted this? I didn't choose this life. It chose me." The past crept into the room, whispering of their childhood, carefree and innocent before their father had disappeared into the darkness, leaving them to navigate the treacherous waters of the mob. Marco had taken on the role of protector, but even the best intentions could lead to ruin. He reached out for her hand, and she flinched, memories flooding her mind. Moments when he had kept her safe, but also moments when he had let her down. "There are lines, Marco," she replied, trembling. "You've crossed them now. You killed for power." Pain flickered in his eyes. The guilt was evident, but beneath it lay something darker, determination. The thought twisted her stomach. "I didn't kill anyone you know," he said fiercely. "It was him or us. You don't understand the weight I carry. He was a threat." She shook her head, tears prickling her eyes. "A threat to what? Our family? Our lives? This isn't just about survival anymore. You're losing yourself, Marco." The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. The air felt charged with unspoken words, every heartbeat echoing louder than the last. Outside, a siren wailed, a reminder of the chaos that surrounded them. The city was a battleground lit by the flickering flames of their choices. Would she stand by her brother or fight against what he was becoming? "Why didn't you tell me?" Elena's voice cracked. "Why didn't you trust me enough?" She took a step back, the space between them growing. Their bond felt fragile, like glass on the verge of shattering. "I didn't want to drag you into this," Marco shouted, frustration spilling over. "You deserve more than this life. I wanted to protect you." "By making decisions for me?" she replied, her heart sinking. She wished she could see the boy who had once played hide-and-seek with her, filled with laughter and dreams. Instead, he had become a man wrapped in shadows. Shots rang out suddenly, and the world seemed to tilt. Elena dropped to the ground, breathless, as the door swung open. Figures rushed in, faces masked, eyes cold. Adrenaline surged through her veins. "Marco!" she yelled, but the chaos consumed her voice. Her brother lunged, taking hold of her arm. They ran, weaving through the labyrinth of the room, the sound of gunfire echoing behind them. Trust hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of what they once shared, in the reality of the mob's unforgiving world. Each step felt heavy, the weight of their choices palpable in the air. A cornered animal fights the hardest, and the Mafia was a cornered beast. They burst through a door into the moonlit alley, where the shadows danced like ghosts. Heart pounding, Elena glanced at Marco, his face carved in determination mixed with desperation. She could see it, the rage, the pain. It was a fury born from betrayal, from being forced into a life neither of them chose but had no option but to accept. "What now?" she asked breathlessly, desperation glowing in her eyes. "Get to the car," he ordered, urgency lacing his voice. But where could they go? The city felt like a maze with paths leading them deeper into danger. As they reached the car, the engine roared to life. Marco slid behind the wheel, his hands steady even as the danger loomed. "I won't let them take you from me, Elena. I promise," he said, his voice wavering but filled with resolve. The weight of his words sat heavily between them, a promise forged in blood and sacrifice. Yet, the world they were fleeing from was unforgiving, and the choices they made would haunt them both. The car sped away, tires screeching as they navigated the dark alleys, and Elena realized something precious was lost. The brother she had grown up with was fading into a ghost of what he once was. Blood ties were a double-edged sword, messy and sharp. Freedom was an illusion, but she was still desperate for it. As they skidded around a corner, Elena understood her reflection in the madness around her. The love for her brother was tangled with the fear of what he had become. Trust was a fragile thing, easily shattered, and they both needed to decide. Would they break apart or find a way to navigate the darkness together? The moon hung high, casting a pale light on everything they had lost and everything that remained to be found. Every choice they made from this moment would define not only their fate, but the very essence of who they were. Just beyond the shadows, she hoped they could reclaim their bond, whatever it still was, for neither blood nor betrayal should sever the ties forged in the warmth of love. 2. Shadows beneath the roses. Elena stood in the dimly lit garden, surrounded by roses. The vibrant red petals sparkled against the dark green foliage, breathtaking yet deceptive. It was beautiful here, but there, lurking beneath the beauty, were shadows. Shadows that whispered secrets of the past and threatened her fragile future. She brushed her fingers against a rose, feeling its soft texture, but the thorns pricked her skin. Pain shot through her, a reminder that beauty could bite. Marco had driven them to this hidden place, an old family estate now cloaked in silence. They were hiding, yes, but her heart raced not just from fear, but from the memories this garden held. It had been a sanctuary once. She could hear laughter, a child's laughter, her laughter. They had played among these very roses, but now it felt haunted, filled with dark echoes of betrayal and heartaches. "Are you okay?" Marco's voice broke through her thoughts. He stepped closer, his expression etched with worry. The world weighed heavy on his shoulders. She had wanted to protect him, just as he wished to shield her, but their hearts were buried beneath layers of choices made in desperation. "I'm fine," she answered quietly, though her heart told another story. They were fleeing a darkness that had clawed its way into their lives, a relentless darkness that felt familiar yet foreign. Marco studied her, as if trying to decipher the pain hidden behind her eyes. "We need to talk." His tone was steady, but filled with urgency. Elena turned away, staring at the roses. If only they could bloom without the shadows. "I killed for a reason, Elena. You have to understand that." His words twisted inside her like a knife. She closed her eyes, fighting back tears. "You think that makes it okay? You think I can just pretend it didn't happen?" The air was thick between them, charged with all the things they had yet not said. "I did what I had to do to protect you," he insisted, passion burning in his voice. She felt the warmth of his anger, the frustration with her disbelief. "They were coming for us. Some things can't be ignored, Elena. The Mafia will hunt us down. I had to send a message." A message. His words echoed, and they cut through her. Did he think violence could erase the past? This was not justice. It was a spiral of blood and loss. She tore her gaze away from the roses, the way their beauty masked the darkness lurking beneath. "What if you become one of them?" she whispered, the question heavy in the night air. Marco stiffened, his expression darkening. "What if you lose yourself completely?" For a moment they stood in silence, the only sound their shared breaths mingling with the night. The allure of power and security pulsed in the darkness, whispering promises that were too enticing to ignore. But at what cost? She felt the weight of their unanswered questions pressing down on her, the shadows coiling tighter. "I won't lose myself," Marco said, voice firm, but she, could see the uncertainty flickering behind his eyes. He wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe it too. As the tension swirled, the quiet chaos surrounding them clung to her. The memories fought for dominance. Childhood laughter, joyous moments, burnt away by moments of rage and violence. The night deepened, stretching their fears and doubts. Suddenly, a noise shattered the stillness, a rustle in the bushes. Elena's heart skipped, and she grabbed Marco's arm tightly, her instincts, screaming. He turned, eyes focused, scanning the darkness. A figure emerged. It was Antonio, a man from their past, tall with a reputation that preceded him. "What are you doing here?" Marco demanded, stepping between Elena and the man. She could see the tension in his body, ready to protect her. But could he also see that they were not the only ones watching? "Thought you might need some help," Antonio said, his voice calm but dripping with subtle danger. "It's not safe here. We have to move." Elena felt her pulse race with unease. "Why should we trust you?" she shot back, her instinct screaming for caution. "In this world of danger, trust was a fragile thread." "Because I'm trying to help you," Antonio replied, a flicker of annoyance passing over his features. "You think the city will let you breathe easy? You think running will keep you safe? You're already marked." "I don't want to be part of this," Marco harshly replied, rage flaring in his voice. "You don't know what we've been through." "Maybe not," Antonio admitted, "but I know what they'll do to you next. You think you can hide forever?" Elena watched Marco wrestle with his emotions. She could see him teetering between anger and fear. The weight of what they had done and what was still ahead pressed heavily upon them. The garden felt claustrophobic, as if the shadows were closing in, mocking their attempts at freedom. "Antonio," she interrupted, stepping forward, "what do you want from us?" A sly smile crossed his face. "Just consider my offer. There's a way out of this mess, but you have to trust me. You have to make a choice." His gaze flicked to Marco, deepening the divide between them. Choices. They were standing at a crossroads. Marco looked at her, and she saw a war raging in his chest. Somewhere deep down he felt it too, the suffocating grip of their reality versus the hope for something more. But would surrender lead to some sort of freedom, or would it only dig them deeper into the shadows? "Elena," he began, desperation creeping into his voice, "I can't go back. Not after everything." Something in his tone tugged at her heart. The stakes were high, and she wanted to hold on to the boy who had once danced with her in this very garden. But she could not ignore the shadows. "Neither can I, Marco. But we have to be careful." The moment stretched, fragile like the petals around them, where decisions would lead them toward either redemption or further darkness. Should they follow Antonio into the unknown, or should they press on alone, carrying the burden of betrayal and secrecy in their hearts? In that moment, Elena realized the truth. Relationships built on love could also crumble under the weight of secrets. Trust was not merely a promise, it was a risk taken. She reached for Marco's hand, his warmth grounding her against the uncertainty. They had always relied on each other, but now their paths were crossable. Together they would decide what came next. The roses, beautiful, yet dangerous, reminded her that in life, pain and love often grew intertwined. Love could shine through the shadows, but it also required a fierce determination to thrive in a world that constantly threatened to tear it apart. And whatever decision they made next, they would face it together, willing to embrace the thorns along with the blooms. 3. Whispers of the heart's deceit. Elena stood in the dim light of the old estate, torn between fear and hope. The walls around her held whispers, voices echoing from the past. Each word seemed to hint at deceit buried deep within family ties. She could feel it, curling around her heart like a vine, tightening with every breath. Marco paced nearby, his brow furrowed in thought. They were both trapped in a web of choices, tangled in emotions they couldn't fully escape. Even the darkness felt, pregnant with secrets, pushing them closer to a choice neither wanted to make. As she glanced out the cracked window, the moonlight bathed the garden in an ethereal glow. The roses seemed to shimmer, casting shadows that flickered like ghosts of the past. She recalled the laughter that had once filled their lives, the days spent playing carefree. Now the laughter felt haunting, overshadowed by betrayal and fear. We need to decide, Marco, she finally said, pulling her thoughts into focus. We can't stay here forever. Antonio is waiting for our answer. Her voice quivered slightly, a blend of anxiety and determination. Trusting him feels wrong, Marco replied, anger brimming beneath his calm exterior. He's part of this life, and we're trying to escape it. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration etched on his face. I don't want to follow someone else's path. Elena nodded, understanding his hesitation. The shadows in their lives were a constant reminder of the price they paid for family ties. The Mafia world was seductive yet poisonous, a place where loyalty could lead to ruin, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. They had to take control of their destinies before it was too late. We could make our own path, she suggested, though doubt crept into her thoughts. But we can't do it alone. We need allies, Marco. Antonio could help us. Her brother's jaw tightened as he looked away, the weight of their decisions heavy in the air. Between them, the uncertainty gnawed at her. Would taking a risk lead them to safety or deeper into danger? Every choice was an echo of the life they had known, filled with blurred lines between right and wrong. Suddenly, a rattling sound broke through their hushed conversation. The door swung open with a crash, and Antonio stepped inside, dragging their attention away from their thoughts. His presence was as commanding as it was unsettling, his confidence radiating through the room. I see you're still debating, he said, a smirk playing on his lips. Get out, Marco snapped, stepping forward. We don't want anything from you. I wouldn't be so quick to shut the door, Antonio said, his tone becoming serious. The storm is coming, and it won't pass over you. Elena felt tension spike in the room. She took a deep breath, realizing the danger was more than just physical. It was about the choices they would make, the trust they were willing to place in someone so steeped in the darkness itself. What do you want from us? She asked, trying to mask her uncertainty. To save you, he replied simply, his gaze steady. I know people. My way makes the most sense. The Mafia is ruthless. You can't survive alone. Elena felt Marco's anger radiate off him. And what do you get out of it? Safety comes at a price, Antonio said, his smirk returning. But it's far less than what you'll pay if you stay here and do nothing. The room tightened, filled with the weight of his predictions, echoing through the spaces of their minds. Elena could see the promise of safety in Antonio's eyes, yet alongside it, the darkness of betrayal flickered. Her brother would need to decide swiftly, but which side would he choose? I don't want your games, Marco shot back, fury fueling his voice. Then you're a fool, Antonio snapped, stepping closer. You're already in the game. The question is, do you want to play to win? Enough, Elena intervened, her voice rising. We won't turn on each other. What's in the past has to stay buried. Silence engulfed the room. All three were grappling with the same threads of uncertainty that connected them, yet pointing them in different directions. The darkness seeped in, curling around their resolve. Make your choice, Antonio finally said, backing away, his voice calm and filled with finality. You can follow me now, or you can watch the world you love burn. With that, he left the room, leaving Elena and Marco standing in the flickering shadows. Her heart raced as she met his gaze, searching for answers. What if he's right? She asked quietly, her voice trembling. What if we can't do this alone? Marco stepped back, pain flashing in his eyes. Then we keep fighting. We find another way. The fight in his voice pushed against her fears. But how long can we run? As the moonlight streamed through the window, its glow illuminated the uncertainty surrounding them. It felt heavy, pressing against her chest. Elena blinked away the tears that threatened to fall. She wanted to believe they could find a way out, but the shadows whispered once more, reminding her of the thorns lurking beneath every path. Elena, Marco said softly, breaking through the chaos in her mind. Whatever happens, we face it together. Remember that. His words wrapped around her, anchoring her in the storm of emotions. His loyalty was unwavering, a bright light against the encroaching darkness. She could feel it. The bond they shared ran deeper than blood. Their paths might lead them into danger, but they would also keep searching for the flicker of hope buried within. Together, she echoed, holding on to the spark of confidence as they faced the hard choices ahead. Trusting each other would be their greatest weapon. Love could be a guiding light, even in the darkest moments, igniting courage in the face of deceit. As they steeled themselves for what lay ahead, Elena couldn't shake the lingering doubt. Heart's deceit could take many forms, whispering gently or screaming loudly. Would they be strong enough to see through it? Time would reveal the truth, and their choices would carve the path to their future. They had each other. The rest was still unwritten. 4. Ensnared by desire. The night was heavy with unspoken truths and simmering tension. Elena sat at the edge of the old wooden table, fingers tracing the grain as if it would offer her clarity. The candlelight flickered, casting shadows that danced across the walls, but her heart felt trapped in a darkness of its own. She could still feel the heat of Marco's anger from their last conversation. The stakes were rising, and so was the undeniable attraction she felt toward him. A wildfire igniting her senses and making her senses swirl. "Can you stop pacing?" she finally said, breaking the silence. Marco stopped, his eyes flashing with something unreadable. "It's like you're running from your own thoughts." "Maybe I am," he replied sharply, but his tone softened as he sat down across from her. The tension was thick, like a storm brewing just out of reach. "I just don't want to lose you, Elena. Not like this." She held his gaze, her breath hitching at the fierceness she saw in his eyes. They had been through so much together, and yet here they were, dancing around their feelings. Desire coiled around her like a serpent, squeezing tightly and intoxicating her mind. Did he see that in her too? It was terrifying, yet exhilarating. They were ensnared in a game where love and danger intertwined, blurred lines making their hearts leap and race. "Maybe we need to talk about what's really going on between us," she ventured, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. Marco's eyes flickered with surprise. "You think this is the time?" Elena rose from her seat, feeling the urgency consuming her. "Time doesn't stop just because we're scared. We can't ignore it anymore." The words hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. She looked around the dimly lit room, familiar yet foreign. It was their sanctuary and prison all at once. Marco stood, taking a step toward her, his presence pushing her pulse into overdrive. "I don't want to add more chaos to this mess," he said, inner conflict swirling like a storm in his chest. "It's dangerous. It's too dangerous for both of us." "But we can't keep pretending we feel nothing," she insisted, heart racing. There was a truth shining through the darkness, and she wanted to grasp it. The connection between them had always been magnetic, a silent pull that drew them closer, despite the dangers that surrounded them. At that moment, the door flew open, and Antonio stepped back into the room, breaking the moment. "We need to go," he said urgently, his demeanor hanging heavy with an impending threat. "The hunters are closing in." Elena felt the world tilt beneath her. Their moments slipped away like grains of sand. "What do you mean?" she asked, clenching her fists as panic surged through her veins. "They know you're here. We're out of time." Marco's expression hardened. "We'll fight. We won't run." "This isn't about running or fighting. It's about surviving," Antonio snapped, his voice cutting through the tension. "You don't understand what they're willing to do to keep you silent." Silence enveloped them once more, heavy with fear. The world outside was chaotic and full of screams, reminding them of the reality they were trying to escape. Yet what weighed on Elena's heart was more than just the threat of danger. It was the palpable longing for Marco, the ache of what they could share, yet felt so far away. "Let's move," Antonio urged, urgency threading through his words. Marco and Elena exchanged a look, a question hanging between them. "What do we do?" Elena whispered, torn between wanting to flee and needing to confront the truth between them. Marco took a deep breath. "We take our chance. There's no turning back." The gravity of his words pulled at her heart, sending a rush of warmth through her. She felt something shift in the air, an unseen promise blooming just beneath the surface. Together they had the strength to face whatever lay ahead. They hurried through the winding halls of the estate, every step reverberating with uncertainty and fear. Images of their past lingered in the shadows, memories of laughter now clouded by the threat of violence. She kept pace beside Marco, feeling the air crackle between them with shared hope and a desperate desire to survive. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside. Antonio whipped around, eyes wide. "We're running out of time!" They dashed down the hallway and emerged into the moonlit night. The stars twinkled above them, a beautiful yet treacherous backdrop to their chaos. The air smelled of jasmine and danger. Marco's hand found hers, warm and reassuring. In that moment, they were no longer just siblings navigating a dangerous world. They were partners caught in a whirlwind of emotions. "Stick together," Marco said, glancing down at her, his brow furrowed. "We'll find a way out." "Together," she echoed, feeling the pulse of possibility in the air around them. But beneath that trust lay aching uncertainty. Would they find their way safely? The desire between them simmered beneath the surface, a flame that could either lead them into passion or consume them whole. As they turned a corner, Elena spotted movement in the shadows. A figure stepped forward, silhouetted against the moonlight. Fear gripped her chest, and Marco tightened his grip instinctively. "Who's there?" Marco called out, voice steady but thick with tension. The figure emerged from the shadows, a familiar face illuminated by the ambient light. It was Marcello, a Tiliorn, member of their family, but the smirk on his face chilled her bones. "Did you really think you could run?" he taunted, eyes flashing with menace. "You're just sheep trying to escape the wolves." A rush of betrayal washed over Elena as Marcello stepped closer. "You should have known better, Marco. Family always finds a way. You can't escape this life." Marco's jaw clenched, the conflict evident on his face. "I won't let you take her." Yet even as he said it, Elena felt uncertainty clouding her mind. Could they fight against the inevitability of the family legacy? The fiery desire she felt for Marco battled with the reality of their circumstances. "Enough!" Elena stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "You don't get to dictate our lives. We choose our paths." A moment of silence stretched, and the air hummed, thick with tension. Their feelings previously held at bay now surged to the surface, an emotional tidal wave breaking through. "The only choice you have is to submit," Marcello sneered, his face a mask of twisted loyalty. In that instant, everything crystallized. They could either be cornered by fear or stand together against their fate. Trust and love would have to anchor them, even surrounded by danger. With Marco beside her, she felt emboldened. "We'll never bend to your will," Marco said, determination rising in his voice. "We'll make our own choices and we'll fight for our lives." The fireworks of emotions around them, love mixed with guilt as fierce as any weapon. As Marcello lunged forward, Elena realized that the love they confessed would need to transform into strength. Together, in the heart of chaos, they could fight against the shadows that threatened to consume them. Though desire echoed in their hearts, it would require more than passion to survive. In a world wrapped in peril, the choices they made would define them, shaping their fate amidst fear, family, and the pull of desire that had ensnared them both. 5. Crimson Promises. The moon hung low in the sky, draping the world in silver. Elena stood at the edge of the estate's garden, engulfed in a sea of crimson roses. Each petal glistened in the soft light, yet beneath their beauty lay dark secrets. The night air was thick with the scent of betrayal and unresolved feelings. She felt tethered between past and present, every heartbeat echoing with the notion that decisions made tonight could change their lives forever. Marco joined her, his expression serious, shadows dancing across his features. "We can't keep running," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We need to confront them. We're ancestors to this family's legacy. Ignoring it will only bring us pain." Each word hung heavy in the air, an intertwining of fear and defiance. Elena turned to face him, her heart pounding. "But what if confronting them means losing everything? We've already lost so much." His gaze was fierce, burning with determination. "The only way to break free is to face the truth. We have to fight." As the reality of his words sank in, dread filled her chest. And what if it leads to violence? What if we become them? Marco stepped closer, eyes locking onto hers. We have to take that chance. But it's us. It's our choice. Elena felt a surge of emotions. Desire mixed with fear flooded through her as she considered the history of their family, the sacrifices, the blood, and the curses. The crime world offered power, but it lurked in shadows, and its cost could be too high. She looked deep into Marco's eyes, searching for the boy she had once played hide-and-seek with amid those very roses. Then we find a way to do this together, she whispered. His expression softened. We can't lose each other. He reached out, his fingers brushing against hers, a spark igniting between them. The moment felt electric, intense yet fragile, filled with possibilities. Crimson promises exchanged in the stillness of the night. Before they could dwell on the newfound depth of their connection, a loud noise shattered the tranquility. A car engine roared from the driveway, pulling them back into the harsh reality. The urgency of the situation rushed through Elena's veins, adrenaline firing her senses. That's them, Marco said, tension tightening his jaw. It's time. Elena forced herself to breathe as they moved deeper into the shadows. The driveway was illuminated by headlights, growing closer. She felt a mix of defiance and fear. Their family wasn't only blood, it was a legacy steeped in dangers that shaped their lives. They steeled themselves for whatever would come next. The car rolled to a stop and figures stepped out, familiar yet terrifying. Marcello led them, flanked by other men wearing expressions that mirrored their family's dark desires. Look who finally decided to face their fate, he said with a condescending smile. What do you want, Marcello? Marco demanded, stepping protectively in front of Elena. To welcome you. Back to the family fold, he sneered, eyes narrowing. It's time to accept your place. You both think you can just walk away? It doesn't work like that. Elena's heart raced as tension filled the air. Each word from Marcello was like a stone thrown into a pond, rippling fears of what lay ahead. We aren't afraid of you, she shot back, her voice steady despite the fear that gripped her. Ah, but you should be, Marcello taunted, raising an eyebrow. You don't realize the power of family. Blood is everything, and you are just seeds that need to be cultivated properly. We are not your property, Marco growled, fists clenching at his sides. We're done being puppets in your twisted game. The men exchanged glances and tension cracked like thunder in the night. Marcello's face hardened. Then you've signed your death warrant. You underestimate what this family can do and the lengths we will go to bring you back. Elena felt the weight of Marcello's words. Panic surged through her, but more potent was the fire ignited within her. We've shed enough blood. We are done with living in fear. Brave word, Marcello said, voice low and menacing, but you're merely delaying the inevitable. You don't understand this world. Maybe we don't, Marco replied, his voice shaking with rage, but we can carve our own path. A moment hung heavy, words unspoken lingering in the air. Marcello stepped forward, a sly grin spreading across his face. Then let's see how long you last without me. Enjoy your freedom. We'll be waiting. With a swift motion, Marcello turned, storming back to the car, his men following. At that moment, Elena felt both exhilaration and despair. They were standing at the edge of a precipice, teetering on the brink of something profound. Did we just walk away from our family? Elena breathed, the weight of uncertainty crashing over her. Marco turned to her, anguish reflected in his eyes. We walked toward a choice we're making together. Her hand, clasped around his, shaking slightly. What if they come after us? Then we're ready. The determination in Marco's eyes ignited something intense within her. They had faced the darkness, and love intertwined with loyalty now anchored them as they faced the unknown. The night felt different. Fear and excitement mingled within her. Perhaps this was the moment they broke their ties. Perhaps they'd emerge as conquerors of their own destinies, ready to face whatever challenges came their way. Together, they took a step forward into the uncertain night. The world held promises painted in crimson, a vibrant reminder of their bond, fierce and unyielding. No matter the twists and turns ahead, they would navigate them side by side, embracing the love that pushed them forward. Each heartbeat echoed with the whispers of what could be, a future filled with possibilities forged in the fires of resilience. In the shadows they would find their light. 6. The price of loyalty. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the abandoned warehouse where Elena and Marco had decided to meet. This was not just any place. It was a former stronghold of their family, the echoes of old dealings still trapped within its walls. The air felt thick with unspoken histories. They had chosen it for its secrecy, but Elena's heart raced as she stepped inside. There was a weight here, a reminder that loyalty often came at a cost, one they had yet to fully grasp. "Do you think Marcello will really let this go?" Elena asked, worry creeping into her voice. She glanced out one of the cracked windows, trying to discern which direction the danger might come from. "We stood against him. We've turned our backs on the family." Marco's brow furrowed. "We've made our choice, but we have to be prepared for the fallout." He paused, his expression piercing. "Loyalty means sacrifice, Elena." Those words hung in the air, almost like a threat. She felt the tension between them, heavy and palpable. Were they truly ready for what loyalty would demand? The stakes had never been higher, and fear buzzed through her body like electricity. "What do we do if they come for us?" she pressed, seeking reassurance. The unknown loomed like a storm cloud, just waiting to unleash its fury. "We stand together," Marco replied, a fierce determination in his eyes. "No matter what happens, we protect each other." Elena nodded, though uncertainty still coiled in her stomach. She had grown up with the understanding that family loyalties were everything. But now, standing against that very foundation, the weight of her choice felt paradoxical. She loved her brother, but they had become enemies to their own blood. The thought unsettled her. As the sun set, the warehouse filled with shadows. Elena could feel her heart pounding, echoing against the silence that enveloped them. They had forged their path, yet the cost of such decisions loomed dangerously close. Would they pay with their lives, or would they find a way to survive? Suddenly, the heavy door creaked open. Marco's protective instinct snapped into place, and he stepped in front of Elena, muscles tense. She held her breath as the figure approached, its silhouette surrendering to the dim light. It was Antonio, his face serious but unyielding. "I'm glad I found you both," he said, urgency lacing his voice. "Things are escalating quickly. I have news about Marcello." "What is it?" Marco demanded, eyes narrowing. "They're mobilizing and they're coming for you," Antonio replied. "You need to leave the city. Now it's the only way to stay alive." Elena felt her heart drop. This was not the kind of change she had hoped for when she dared to believe in freedom. "Leave, but we can't just run from our family." Antonio shook his head. "This isn't about running. It's about survival. Your loyalty to this family could cost you everything, including your lives." "What's the alternative?" Marco challenged. "To stay here and fight?" "Yes, if you're willing to face the wrath of your family," Antonio replied, his tone serious. "But loyalty isn't a shield. It's a sword that could turn against you." Elena's heart raced, caught among the shifting tides of hope and despair. To run would mean abandoning everything they had known, while staying could lead them into a battle with their family. What did loyalty even mean when placed against the danger looming before them? "Do you think they care about us? About this loyalty?" Marco's voice shook with a mix of anger and worry. "They'll destroy us. I can't bear the thought of losing you." Elena saw the pain in his eyes. It twisted deep inside her, a knot of conflicting emotions. "You won't lose me," she assured him, emotions raw. "But maybe we should listen." "Don't let fear make your decision," Antonio cautioned. "You have to choose based on what you want your future to look like." "But what about the power that comes with our family?" "Or no," Marco pressed. "This legacy we've grown up with?" "Power is meaningless without life," Antonio shot back. "You have the chance to create your own legacy, your own path." The tension grew thick, and silence enveloped them as they processed the weight of each word. In that moment, Elena recognized the price of loyalty. Nothing was more daunting than abandoning the past, yet nothing was more freeing than forging their own destiny. She stepped closer to Marco, grounding herself in his presence. "We've faced challenges before, It's time we stop living in fear of their shadows and embrace our own strength. Marco searched her eyes, seeking more than just reassurance. He was looking for belief. Are you sure? He asked, vulnerability softening his tone. Yes! The certainty surged within her, fueled by a mix of defiance and love. We will not be prisoners of our blood. We choose our fate. Antonio's face brightened slightly. Then we need to act quickly. Gathering the right people will require precision and courage. I believe in your strength. No more shadows, Marco declared, steely determination hardening his expression. No more being held hostage by family ties. As the three of them stood together, a sense of purpose ignited in the air. Elena felt the warmth of their connection, each heartbeat resonating with newfound strength. This was the beginning of something profound, a step toward a future they could shape together. Yet as the shadows outside lengthened, the cost of loyalty weighed heavily on her heart. They had spoken boldly, yet the threat of what lay ahead was still daunting. The decision they had made could lead to freedom or destruction. Whatever the outcome, however, they would face it side by side. With renewed determination, they left the warehouse, stepping into the twilight, the sun's last rays painting the sky with hues of gold. Elena held Marco's hand tightly, choosing to trust in his resolve as they stepped into the unknown. Loyalty might demand sacrifices, but unity could redefine their path. The essence of what they fought for was not just blood, but the bond they had forged amidst the chaos. And with that bond, whatever they faced would be met with the fire of hope and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. 7. Embers of Forbidden Love. The dim light flickered across the room as Elena stood beside the window, lost in thought. The night outside draped itself in darkness, but she could feel the warmth of memories wrap around her. Those memories were both comforting and painful and sparked a turmoil in her heart. She was staring down into a world of chaos and danger, yet it was the heart's most perilous game that consumed her. Love, forbidden and all-consuming. Elena had always known this feeling was wrong. It was unspoken, a silent, long tether binding her to Marco, but it bloomed like fire in her chest. Each encounter, each lingering glance ignited desire within her, a blaze that shimmered in the shadows. But the price of such love was heavy, steeped in loyalty to family and obligations wrapped in the Mafia's expectations. What are you thinking? Marco's voice cut through her thoughts. He stood behind her, his presence grounding her, both steady and electric. She turned to face him, her heart racing. About us, about what we're doing. His brow furrowed, capturing the tension in the room. We're fighting for our lives, he reminded her, stepping closer. But we can't ignore what's growing between us. The air thickened, electric with unspoken words and confessions. Each time they touched, it was both thrilling and wrong. The very definition of forbidden. It's not just about survival, Elena admitted, her voice trembling. It's about the choices we've made. We're dangerously crossing lines, Marco. He searched her eyes, dark and intense, and she could see the eager flame reflected within them. This is more than just loyalty to family, isn't it? He asked softly. This is about us. Elena felt her breath hitch. She knew they were caught in a web of emotions, passion igniting amidst tensions. Love was supposed to be freeing, but here it felt like a shackle, tightening with each confession. They'll never accept us like this, she whispered, a mix of longing and dread, gripping her. Our family can't even accept a choice to be free. Then we make our own choice, Marco asserted, determination blazing in his eyes. I can't deny what I feel for you. The warmth of his admission sent shivers down her spine. It felt like stepping onto a tightrope stretched high above a void. If they fell, there would be no safety net, only the weight of their family's expectations to pull them under. What if we destroy each other? She asked, vulnerability flooding her voice. Softness crossed his features as he stepped closer, a hand reaching out to cup her face gently. What if we set the world ablaze? He murmured, his breath brushing against her lips. The heat in his gaze made her pulse quicken. In that moment, everything around them faded. The risks, the dangers, and the darkness of their past melted away as desire surged to the forefront. Time slowed, and all that existed was the two of them, the flicker of the candle casting soft shadows around them, illuminating the very core of their turbulent emotions. And then he kissed her. It was soft at first, a gentle exploration of feelings long suppressed. But as she melted into his embrace, the kiss deepened, igniting a furious flame that burned through them both. Elena lost herself in the warmth of his desire, the world outside falling away into oblivion. But just as she surrendered to the moment, a sharp knock sounded at the door, pulling them back into reality like a bucket of cold water. They broke apart, breathless and wide-eyed, hearts racing. The heat of passion still clung to them, but fear quickly flickered in its place. "Who is it?" Marco called, voice tense. "It's Antonio," came the urgent reply. "We need to talk now." Elena's heart sank. The perfect moment had shattered like glass. She glanced up at Marco, the warmth of their kiss still tingling against her skin, but the weight of the world pressed down on them. "We can't keep pretending this isn't dangerous," she said, softly. "I know," Marco whispered, a look of frustration settling over his features. "But I'll never stop wanting you. You have to know that." Elena felt a rush of emotions, caught between desire and the reality they faced. "We may not have a choice, Marco. It's not just us anymore." They pulled themselves together, ready to confront whatever storm awaited them. Marco opened the door, revealing Antonio's anxious expression. "What's going on? We don't have time." Panic bubbled within her. "What's happening?" she demanded. "They found out you're still here." "Marcello is furious," Antonio explained, urgency coating his every word. "We need to leave tonight." Elena felt a twist in her gut. The reality of their existence weighed heavily on her, a relentless reminder of the risks they faced. Would choosing to fight for love lead to their demise? The embers of that love smoldered in her chest, and yet each choice seemed to push them deeper into danger. "Are you ready?" Antonio pressed. "This is not a decision we can postpone." Marco turned to Elena, searching her face for an answer. She could see the determination in his eyes, but also the uncertainty. It was a heart-wrenching moment. The feelings they shared blurred lines, straddling loyalty and longing. "We'll never have a chance like this if we run," Marco said quietly, and for a fleeting moment it seemed like there was a choice laid before them, to fight for what they had or to escape before it consumed them. She held his gaze, and for a heartbeat, they were suspended in time. "What if we lose everything?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Then we lose it together," he replied, his grip tightening on her hand. "But I'd rather face the unknown with you than hide from it alone." Looking into those deep, unwavering eyes, she felt the choice solidifying within her. Love bore risks, yes, but it could also be a source of strength. Together, they could face whatever storm lay ahead. "I'm ready," she said, her heart racing with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Antonio nodded, relief washing over his face. "Good, we need to move quickly." The sparks of forbidden love still ignited between her and Marco, but now they were matched by a fierce determination to fight for their future. It was no longer just about loyalty. It was about choice and the hope of building a world where they could be together. As they stepped into the looming night, uncertainty lay ahead like dark clouds on the horizon. But with hands intertwined, the embers of their love glowed strong, fueled by the undeniable fire of choice, even in the face of chaos. They would forge ahead into the unknown, ready to face whatever came next, daring to believe in a love that could conquer even the darkest shadows. 8. Echoes of blood and kisses. The night air was thick with tension as Elena stood on the edge of the city, watching the lights flicker against the dark sky like distant stars. Each flicker seemed to pulse with memories, voices of the past reverberating in her mind. She felt the weight of her family's legacy pressing down on her chest, a chain forged from years of loyalty and blood. Just a few steps away, Marco brooded, his silhouette outlined in the soft glow of the streetlights. "We should have left by now," he said, turning to her, frustration lacing his voice. "Every moment we stay here puts us at risk." Elena's heart raced. "I know, but I can't just run away from everything. What about our family?" "Your family is not the same anymore," Marco replied, his tone fierce. "They'll come after you because of me, because of what we feel." The air pulsed with charged emotions, and she felt every word slicing through the silence. It was true. The stakes were higher than ever. Their secret, love burned bright, a hidden flame in a world that thrived on darkness. But the louder it grew, the more danger it attracted. "But isn't that part of it?" she argued, stepping closer. "We can change things. We can build something together." "Change comes with a price," Marco said, pain shadowing his features. "And love costs more than we're willing to pay." They stood in silence, and for a moment the past hung between them. Memories floated through the haze of laughter and family gatherings, filled with warmth. But those echoes were now tainted with betrayal, and every whispered word of loyalty echoed back. She could almost hear the words of her ancestors. Blood was everything. "What if we could write our own story?" Elena suggested, longing for a future where love could reign free. "But what even is the point?" he shot back. "You think just because we feel this way, things will change overnight? It won't. People die for less." Her heart ached at his words. She reached for him, desperate to bridge the emotional distance that loomed like a chasm between them. "I refuse to believe that our love has to be a casualty. We can fight against it." He took a breath, his eyes searching hers for answers. "It's easy to say that when you're not the one holding the sword. And it's easy to give up," she insisted, frustration bubbling to the surface. "If we don't try, what's the point in living if we bury our desires? Love is worth fighting for." Elena felt the air shift, that familiar tension intertwining with desire. It sparked in the air around them, heavy and alive. She saw it in Marco's eyes as they flared with emotion, caught between the storm of anger and yearning. "Do you really think love can save us?" he whispered, his voice low and deep. "Yes, I do," she said, shaking slightly. "It can destroy us or set us free, but we have to choose together." As she spoke, the pulsing energy around them thickened, a magnet pulling them closer together until they stood, mere inches apart. Swallowed by their emotions, the world outside faded away, leaving only the two of them enveloped in this electric moment. He hesitated only a moment before stepping into her embrace, wrapping his arms around her tightly. In that instant, everything else fell away. The looming dangers, the haunting memories of blood and betrayal faded into the background. Their lips met in a kiss that held both promises and regrets, a reckless entanglement of love forged in fire. But as they pulled apart, reality crashed back in. The fear of what lurked behind their feelings tightened around them, binding them in uncertainty. They both knew that every heartbeat brought them closer to inevitable danger. "I wish I could believe that we would be free of this," Marco murmured against her forehead, his voice laced with sorrow. Elena looked up at him, a tight knot in her stomach. "What if we take that risk?" Before he could respond, the sound of sirens blared in the distance, breaking, their moment like a splash of cold water. The blaring echo sent her heart into overdrive, urgency pushing against the tenderness of their shared moment. "They're coming!" she gasped, pulling away and scanning the streets. "Stay close," Marco urged, taking her hand, leading her deeper into the shadows. They slipped into an alley, the darkness swallowing them whole. "What do we do now?" Elena asked, fear spiking through her. "We get to safety," he said, his jaw set. "But if we're cornered, I won't let you go. I promise." As they navigated the narrow passage, Elena felt her heart pounding furiously, the pulse like a drumbeat of dread. The choice before them loomed larger than ever, the risk of living out loud or the safety of remaining in silence. "Do they know?" she whispered, glancing at Marco. He shook his head, determination swirling in his gaze. "Not yet, but they will, once we make a move." Each step echoed their fears and hopes, mingling with the shadows that loomed. They reached a key, nondescript door at the end of the alley, and Marco pushed it open. Inside was a dimly lit room, walls lined with old memories of their family, photos frozen in time. "This was our grandfather's hideout," Elena whispered, taking in the dusty relics. "It'll do for now," Marco replied, locking the door behind them. They stood there, breathing heavily, both aware that they were living on a knife's edge. But this moment held something more. They were sharing the weight of their choices together, and It felt like an anchor amidst the chaos. What if we never break free from this? Elena asked, vulnerability crossing her features. Then we fight, Marco declared, looking straight into her eyes. We fight for our love, no matter the price. In that moment, under the echoes of blood and the shadowy reminders of their past, they leaned into their embrace once more. The kiss they shared this time was deeper, packed with an insatiable zeal for life and desire, a promise carved from the fires of their souls. Together they knew they might be stepping into the inferno, but it was a leap they were willing to take. Love had become their fiercest weapon, and as they faced the unknown together, they would find strength in their connection. Whatever awaited them, they would face it side by side, bound by their choices and ignited by the embers of a love once deemed forbidden. 9. Ties that bind and break. Elena stood in the half-light of the warehouse, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. The air was thick with tension as she stared at the faded photographs lining the walls, fragments of a family caught in time. Each picture was a reminder of the bonds that had once held them together, and yet the same ties now threatened to tear them apart. She felt the shadows seep into her, memories clawing at her heart like an unwelcome echo. "Do you think they'll ever understand?" she whispered, not ready to face the answer. Marco loomed beside her, his presence a warm anchor amidst the confusion swirling in her mind. "Understand what?" he asked, his voice steady, but she could hear the underlying tension. "That this isn't just about family," she replied. "It's about love, too." He turned to her, his gaze serious. "Love doesn't erase our ties to blood, Elena. It complicates them." His words were like cold water, stinging against the warmth they had built together. Everywhere they turned, the past wrapped around them like chains, mingling with every kiss they'd shared, every secret they'd whispered. The family would never simply let them walk away. "We love each other, Marco," she said, her voice rising with irritation. "How am I supposed to choose between you and blood that has always controlled my life?" He stepped closer, tension visibly coursing through him. "It's not just the act of loving, it's the choices we make after that. Every choice ties us to something." With every heartbeat, the stakes felt higher, the choice more daunting. The looming threats of Marcello and the family weighed on her. "But what if those ties are also what break us apart?" she asked softly, fear creeping into her voice. Marco didn't respond immediately. Instead, he turned, surveying the warehouse. Their past home base now a prison of choices. The shadows cast by the flickering lights loomed larger, as if the very reflections of their ancestors watched them with judgmental eyes. "We can't run from this," he said, finally looking back at her. "We have to face them." Elena shivered. Facing their family meant confronting loyalty and betrayal. It meant tearing apart a legacy built on blood to forge something new with Marco. "I don't want to lose you," she confessed, her heart aching. "But I don't want to lose myself either." "Then let's make a pact," he proposed suddenly, urgency creeping into his tone. "We face them together, and we only walk. Away if we can do it without losing who we are." The weight of his words soaked into her, sending ripples of courage through her veins. "A pact," she echoed, feeling a small spark ignite. "We fight for love and for our own choices." His eyes flashed with recognition, and he nodded, determination hardening his gaze. "We'll set the terms. If they can't accept us as we are, then we break free." Elena felt a rush of hope mixed with fear. Could they really sever the ties that had defined their lives? The choice lay before them, heavy yet liberating. As they emerged from the warehouse into the cool night, anxious breaths filled the space between them. The moon hung high, casting silver light as they made their way through the streets. The weight of the world lay heavy on their shoulders, hearts beating in rhythm as they marched toward their uncertain fate together. "I don't want to be afraid anymore," Elena said, glancing up at the night sky. Marco squeezed her hand, a gesture of reassurance. "Fear is powerful, but so is love. Trust in that." They soon reached the family estate, the familiar facade now looming ominously before them. The voices of their family floated through the air, loud and consuming. "Are you ready?" Marco asked, his eyes locking onto hers, searching for confirmation. "No," she admitted, But we can't let fear dictate our future. He nodded, determination filling his gaze as they approached the entrance. Just as they stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. The murmur of voices halted, replaced by the weight of silence. Family faces turned toward them, a mix of surprise, hostility, and curiosity painted across their expressions. Marcello stood at the head of the room, his stature imposing, a wolf waiting to pounce. "Look who finally decided to join us," he said, a sly smile spreading across his face. "The prodigal children." Elena felt the rush of adrenaline coursing through her, mixing fear with resolve. "We need to talk," she called, her voice steady, despite the crowd's gaze piercing through her. "And what could you possibly have to say?" he replied, amusement dancing in his eyes. "You've chosen to turn your backs on family." Her heart pounded, emotions swirling as she took a step forward. "We haven't turned our backs. We've chosen love. Love that transcends our past." Gasps and whispers erupted from the crowd, disbelief hanging heavy in the air. But in the depths of her heart, she knew their truth was worth fighting for. "You think you can just ignore the ties that bind?" Marcello's tone shifted, turning icy. "We are family. You have obligations." "Obligations that suffocate us," Marco shot back, his voice strong. "We refuse to live in shadows. If you cannot accept us, then we choose to break free." Silence swallowed the room, tension hanging thick like smoke. For a moment, time stood still as emotions collided, standing on the brink of a precipice. The family they had loved was now the very force holding them back, echoing with the heartbreak of broken promises. Elena watched as shock spread through the crowd, uncertainty woven into the fabric of each face. But it was Marcello's expression that struck her most. Anger mixed with disbelief, the fury of a leader betrayed by his own blood. "Do you think you can just walk away?" he growled, a dangerous edge creeping into his voice. "This is not a game." "It's our lives and we won't let you dictate them," Elena declared, her heart swelling with strength. The moment felt fragile yet monumental. They stood on the cusp of something life-altering, a breaking point where ties could bind them or break them forever. Not just as family, but as individuals seeking freedom beyond the suffocating grasp of legacy. As she looked around the room, she saw a flicker of understanding begin to dawn in some of the faces. Hope surged within her. Maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for change. But fate has a way of twisting choices. Just as uncertainty hung in the air, the rustle of clothing echoed as shadows shifted in the back of the room. She felt a gust of cold dread wash over her as she recognized the newcomer, an enforcer from their family's past, eyes cold and calculating. "We'll see," he sneered, locking eyes with Elena. "What happens when you drag this family into the light? You could lose everything." But Elena refused to back down. "Then we lose it together." As they stood resolute, they felt the balance shift. The ties binding them tested for the first time. Love was their weapon, a source of unwavering light against the shadows that loomed. Whatever the outcome, they would face it together. As the confrontation hung in the air, Elena realized that some ties bind, but true love breaks the chains of fear, allowing the possibility of a brighter tomorrow, one forged from their strength in united truth. 10. Cinders of a shattered vow. The night was suffocating, cloaked in darkness that felt alive, pressing against Elena's skin as she stood outside the estate. Shadows clung to her, reminding her of the atmosphere growing heavy with unfulfilled promises. The events of the last few days surged in her mind like a fierce tide, overwhelming and relentless. She felt the weight of the family ties that had once comforted her now, burning like cinders, ash swirling in the air around her. She glanced at Marco standing just a few feet away, tension radiating from him. His jaw was tight, eyes filled with an unreadable storm as he stared into the deepening shadows. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Elena took a shaky breath, trying to summon courage. "Ready to face them? I don't think I ever will be. The truth is not just about freedom, it's about trusting each other," Marco replied, taking a step closer. "We've decided to stand together. We can't let fear consume us." Fear is not the only thing consuming me, she said, her heart heavy. The memories of their family, the love bred from loyalty mixed with obligation, echoed painfully in her chest. We could lose everything we have, Marco. He held her gaze, fierce determination cutting through the weight. We? His voice faltered, emotions swirling within him. We have to be willing to break the chains? In that moment, she felt it, a flicker amidst the remnants of fear and doubt. Maybe this was their chance to reclaim their lives, to build a future together from the ashes of shattered vows. A loud crash interrupted their moment. The front door of the estate swung open, and angry voices erupted from the shadows. Marco stiffened, ready to protect her. We don't have time. They're coming. Elena's heart raced as she braced herself. Then let's go! She grasped Marco's hand tightly. Together they sprinted toward the unfolding chaos, knowing that the world outside the estate had been unraveling. Around them, truths hidden beneath layers of loyalty. As they dashed inside, the dimly lit hallways were alive with movement. Men in dark suits shouted, tension palpable in the air. She could feel their eyes piercing through the darkness, a suffocating sense of impending conflict. Is this what it has come to? She whispered, fear creeping beneath her skin. We knew the risks, Marco replied, guiding her through the thick of the chaos. We stand firm no matter what. Their resolve solidified, with every hurried step. Just moments before, everything had felt distant, blurred by uncertainty. Now, as they moved deeper into the heart of their family's domain, a sense of defiance surged within her. They were entering the lion's den, ready to confront not just their family, but their own fears. Together, Elena whispered, squeezing Marco's hand. The air crackled with tension as they turned a corner and came upon a familiar gathering. Marcello stood at the center, flanked by enforcers. The air around him electric with undeniable authority. His expression was one of fury, dark clouds gathering on his brow. What are you two doing here? He demanded, his voice thunderous. You think you can just abandon your duty? Elena felt a tightness in her throat. This was the moment they had both feared and prepared for. We're done with this family's control, Marcello, she stated, her voice steady despite her shaking insides. The room fell silent, every watchful gaze focusing on her. A weight of anticipation hung around them, thick and heavy. You dare defy your own blood, he replied, disbelief lacing his tone. You will regret this choice. Marco stepped forward, his presence a wall of defiance beside her. Our love is not a crime. It cannot be a reason to keep us chained. If we lose our freedom, we lose everything. Marcello's eyes narrowed, a dangerous gleam reflecting in the dim light. You think love can save you? Love is a weakness, a liability. We've made a choice, Elena shouted, fury rising within her like a flame. Do we continue to live under the shadow of your control, or do we break free, even if it means losing everything? The room shifted slightly, some faces revealing flickers of understanding, while others hardened into cold resolve. You are naive, Marcello scoffed. You will suffer for this. You think love is a shield, but you will find it's merely cinders in the wind. The rage writhed in her heart at his dismissive words. I would rather fight for love than let it extinguish in silence, she declared, feeling like a warrior in that moment, ready to stand against the tide. Stop! Someone called from the back. It was Antonio emerging from the shadows with an air of authority. If you don't listen to them, you will lose them both. The air turned electric, a tension swirling in ways that made her skin prickle. Marcello's features hardened even more, but the room felt taut with shifting alliances. You, of all people, he spat, should know loyalty to family comes first. And what good is family if it breeds only despair? Antonio shot back. We can evolve. Love is more powerful than mere blood ties. Elena felt her heart swell. This was the stand they needed. In that moment, under the unyielding weight of ancestral expectations, she realized that love, however fragile, could ignite a fire strong enough to burn down the walls around them. The decision hung in the air, and with it, she sensed the tides shifting, the undercurrents sparking hope. We choose love, she said, her voice steady. That is your choice? Marcello questioned, disbelief flickering across his face. Yes, Marco affirmed, standing tall beside her. And we're not afraid of the consequences. If you'd rather have power over family, then we'll walk away. Echoes of strained silence filled the room, but this time no one moved to interrupt. This was it, a defining moment waited for. The cinders of old vows burned brightly against the confines of fear and obligation. Marcello studied them, anger swirling onto his expression, mixing with uncertainty. And in that charged silence, Elena sensed a transformation happening. The family they loved was shifting. The foundations they grew up on were being questioned. We will not bargain with fear, she said fiercely. We won't bow to your will anymore. Together we build our own future. Before Marcello could retort, the air thickened around them, and she could see the weight of choices, radiating through the lives standing witness, the future teetering on the edge. It was time to ignite a change, the cinders of old vows turning into flames anew. As the fire of rebellion surged within them, Elena knew they were ready to take that leap. Love could forge unexpected paths amidst the ashes of broken promises, determining the ties that would evolve or inevitably break. And in that moment it became clear. They weren't just fighting for their love. They were fighting for their own identities, carving their own destiny. Whether it would end in devastation or newfound strength remained uncertain, but they would face the echoes of the past without looking back, ready to rise from the cinders anew. 11. Bloodstains on a silver lining. The rain fell in heavy sheets, slanting down from a darkened sky, washing over the streets like a blanket of sorrow. Elena stood in the chaos, her heart pounding as the scent of damp earth mingled with the musty smell of impending confrontation. They had chosen this spot, an abandoned warehouse nestled in the outskirts of the city, where the shadows felt thick and alive. It was here that everything would change, a backdrop for both resolution and heartache. Marco adjusted the collar of his jacket, the tension between them palpable. His jaw was set, and his eyes flickered with a mix of determination and anxiety. If we're going to do this, we can't hesitate. We go in together. Elena nodded, trying to suppress the storm brewing within her. But what if they won't listen? What if love isn't enough? He stepped closer, the warmth of his presence grounding her. Love is never enough alone, but it gives us power. We stand united. They cannot break us. His faith in her served as a balm, but doubt gnawed at her insides, a relentless whisper. What if their hope led only to a deeper chasm of sorrow? The sound of footsteps echoed in the distance, breaking the tension. The time for questions had ended. They were out of options. Ready? Marco asked, his voice steady even as unease flickered in his gaze. Ready, she replied, sealing her resolve with a deep breath. They stepped through the heavy door together, the sound of their footsteps echoing against the cold walls, a countdown to the coming storm. Inside, the warehouse was dimly lit, shadowed figures milling about like specters waiting to confront them. Elena's heart sank as she caught sight of familiar faces, a blend of anger and betrayal swirling in their expressions. In the center stood Marcello, his presence magnetic yet menacing, eyes narrowed as though they were prey caught in his gaze. I didn't think you would return, he said, voice dripping with disdain. What is it you seek, Elena? More empty promises? Elena squared her shoulders, feeling the weight of their past pressing down. We're here for a reason. We want to break free from your commands. That's rich, Marcello scoffed, stepping closer. You think you can just walk away from this family? Blood runs thicker than water, little sister. Then why does it feel like drowning? She shot back, her voice rising. You have suffocated us with control and fear. We chose to live for ourselves. The tension in the room thickened like fog, eyes darting between them. Marco held her hand firmly, a silent strength radiating from him. The love we share cannot be discarded. We won't be pawns in your game. Marcello's eyes darkened, his expression morphing into something cold and calculating. Pawns? You think love can protect you in this world? You underestimate the power of blood. Before she could respond, the door swung open, and a figure stepped inside. It was Antonio. We don't have to do this, Marcello. There's still time to choose peace. Peace? Marcello's laughter echoed, menacing and bitter. You're naive. The bloodstains of betrayal cannot be washed away by wishes. Elena's heart raced. This was the moment that would define them. Would they find the strength to seek a future, or would they crumble under the weight of loyalty? "We can rewrite the story," she said, her voice trembling, yet unwavering. "We can be better than the bloodlines that bind us." Marcello's gaze flickered for a moment, uncertainty flashing in his eyes. "You think you can change what you are? You think turning your back on us will bring peace?" "It can bring hope," Marco interrupted, stepping forward. "Family should not just be about fear and obedience. Love should unite us." The room fell silent, the flickering lights casting long shadows across Marcello's face. A tension-filled moment passed, filled with unspoken words and regrets. Marcello looked between the three of them, a mix of contemplation and indignation battling in his features. "Hope is a fragile thing," he finally said, his tone shifting ever so slightly, almost contemplative. "And love? Love can become a weapon, a way to cut deeper than blood ever could." "What do you mean?" Elena asked, confusion rippling through her. Marcello smirked. "I mean, you think this will end today, but change doesn't come easy in our world. You will have enemies." Just as his words sunk in, a loud crash shook the very foundation of the warehouse. The sound of a large vehicle speeding towards them. The exit door burst open, revealing a group of armed enforcers, their faces hardened and cold. Elena's heart sank. "This is what you've done? You've brought violence to our door?" "I've done what I had to do to protect what's mine," Marcello replied, coldness creeping back into his tone. Marco stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "If you think we would cower, you're wrong. We choose to stand and fight." The tension erupted like a storm. Enforcers brandished weapons, the atmosphere buzzing with adrenaline and fear. "Stop!" shouted Antonio, raising his hands as though to calm the chaos. "There doesn't have to be bloodshed." But panic gripped Elena. Would the ties that bound them now turn into the strings of destruction? The clarity of their love twisted into uncertainty layered with growing desperation. "We don't have to do this," she cried, taking a step back. As weapons were drawn, she felt a wrenching pain in her chest. Love was meant to be freeing, yet here it only felt like shackles binding them to violence and loss. The chaos surged around them, faces blurred into one another, and suddenly time seemed to stretch, the seconds feeling like hours. Then a shot rang out, sharp, echoing, and unmistakable. "No!" Marco shouted, diving in front of her just as the bullet flew. The world slowed as she watched him go down, the impact sending shockwaves through her chest. "Marco!" Elena rushed to his side, breathless, horror clawing at her insides. She cradled him, looking wildly at the chaos erupting around them, feeling time slip as she grasped his face. "Stay with me, please!" His eyes flickered for a moment, the light dimming as crimson pooled beneath them, staining the floor, a vivid, dreadful contrast to the silver lining they had dreamed of. "Elena," he gasped, pain lacing his voice, "this can't be the end." "No!" She held him closer, tears streaming down her face. "We can't end like this. We had so much to fight for. You promised." But the light in his eyes began to flicker. As life slipped from him, all hope seemed to crumble. The love they shared, the dreams they had built, felt like ash on her tongue. The chaos around them blurred into a haze, voices becoming indistinct, screams echoing in the background. But all she could feel was the warmth leaving Marco's body. In that instant, she realized they had fought against a tide greater than themselves. The bloodstains on the silver lining had become an irreversible mark, a sign of loss carved deep into their bond. And as he lay in her arms, she felt the ties that once bound and protected them unravel like threads coming undone in the face of violent reality. In the depths of despair, she understood the truth. The journey toward love and change was not without sacrifice, and sometimes those sacrifices bore the weight of unbearable pain. In that moment, all Elena could do was brace herself against the cinders of shattered vows, holding on to the belief that love, even amidst loss, remains a flickering fire beneath the ashes, whispering promises of renewal in the face of immeasurable grief. 12th, a symphony of betrayal and desire. The heavy curtains in the ballroom were drawn tight, but the shimmering light of the moon spilled through the cracks, casting spindles of silver across the gleaming floor. Elena stood in the center of the room, breathless, the echoes of laughter and music filtering through the walls. But tonight, the melodies felt haunting, a symphony of emotions playing a tune of desire and betrayal. She could already sense the weight of the night pressing on her heart. E-I-E-E, foreboding dance along her skin. Footsteps approached from behind, bringing a chill that made her shiver. You shouldn't be here alone. Marco's voice broke the silence, filled with a tension that sent her stomach twisting with remembered pain. It's dangerous. She turned to look at him. His eyes were dark, brimming with urgency and something else, something unspoken that danced in the space between them. I needed to come. We have to find a way out of this mess. He stepped closer, the scent of rain and cedar enveloping her as he blocked the moonlight. And you think being here will help? After everything that has happened? I have to face them. We have to face them. We can't let fear control our lives, she insisted, determination pushing anger to the edge of her voice. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, his face a mixture of frustration and admiration. You are headstrong, aren't you? We need a plan. Plans never work in our family, she replied bitterly, remembering the unraveling moments that led them to this very point. The laughter turned bitter in her mouth. But if we can confront them tonight, maybe we can find a way to stop the cycle. Marco's expression shifted, worry lining his features. What if they don't see reason? What if we push them too far? I would rather push than be crushed beneath the weight of expectation, she declared, feeling the weight of her choices hanging in the air like a noose. Just then, the door swung open, and Marcello stepped into the room, a wry smile curling his lips as he glanced around. Ah, so the lovebirds finally decided to show. I was beginning to think this night would be boring. Elena felt a surge of anxiety, her heart racing as Marcello's gaze landed on her, piercing and unreadable. I've been waiting for you two to join the party, he continued, his voice dripping with mockery. And what delightful timing it is. For a brief moment, the three of them stood in a tense standoff. In his eyes, she could see the familiar mix of manipulation and threat swirling beneath the surface, the promise of danger lingering in the air like smoke. What do you want, Marcello? She demanded, trying to inject strength into her voice. What do I want? He chuckled low, stepping closer, his presence overwhelming. I want to protect what belongs to me. It's a simple concept, really. By forcing us to live in chains? Marco spat, stepping in front of Elena, an unyielding shield of resolve. Marcello waved a hand dismissively. Chains? No, my dear brother. I offer family, love, loyalty, the ties that bind. And the ties that suffocate, Elena interjected. We want to break free from your hold. Love is suffocating under your rule. There is no joy, only fear. Marcello paused, the amusement fading from his features as anger flickered in his eyes. You think your little rebellion can change the past? You think you can rewrite our blood's history? It's not just the past we want to change, Marco replied fiercely. It's the future. We choose to live, to love freely. A noise echoed from the other room, the distinct sound of footsteps approaching swiftly. You are both foolish, Marcello warned, and I will make sure you regret your choices. Before Elena could respond, a figure stepped into the ballroom. Antonio, his expression stern yet conflicted as he surveyed the scene. Marcello, this needs to end. You can't keep pushing them like this. Stay out of this, Antonio, Marcello snapped, his voice cold. This is family business. Antonio held his ground, stepping closer to Marcello. Is it really family when you're threatening to tear it apart? Elena watched the tension rise, confusion mingling with fear. The air felt electric as their family's legacies clashed. Generations of love and loyalty wrestling against desire for freedom. It was a battle echoing through time, and tonight it would crescendo into a decisive moment that would either bind them together or leave them shattered. Elena, Antonio said, suddenly turning his attention to her. If you truly believe in this, then we have to face the truth together. You can't go against Marcello alone. I'm not alone. I have Marco, she declared. Even so, he emphasized, his gaze stern. Sometimes the room is filled with shadows you cannot escape. A cold breeze rushed in from the open door, tugging at her heart like a reminder of all that was at stake. She felt a swell of desperation, the ties of family, hunting them down like wolves ready to strike. I believe in love, she said fiercely, not only for herself, but for every inch of emotion woven between them. I believe we can rewrite our story, Marcello sneered, moving closer, the dangerous glint in his eyes growing sharper. Love is simply a way to disguise weakness. You are so eager to rewrite a narrative, yet you stand here amid a truth you refuse to see. Love never shines bright when blood is spilled. It only casts deep shadows on the heart. Before she could retort, the atmosphere imploded. The first gunshot rang out, echoing sharply, ricocheting against the walls as the air thickened with tension and shock. Gasps erupted, the world around them shifting in an instant. Marco fell to the ground as if the bullet had ripped through the air and struck him down, the life leaving his eyes as he gasped for breath. Marco! Elena cried, rushing to him, her hands pressing against the blood that stained his shirt. The warmth pooled beneath her fingers, a hot contrast against the chill of fear seeping into her bones. Get away from him! Marcello shouted, his voice slicing through her despair. Antonio stepped in front of them, but fear gripped Elena's heart. This is what you've done, Marcello. This is blood on your hands. Enough! He barked back, ordering the enforcers. You don't know who you're dealing with. Elena's heart raced, her world spinning out of control, with each gasp from Marco and the weight of sorrow. Threatening to crush her, she realized that betrayal festered in shadows, lurking beneath the surface of every trusting relationship like a predator waiting to pounce. But even among darkness, love remained, a flicker against the overwhelming tide. Though betrayals stained their past, Elena's heart burned with a fierce desire to break those chains once and for all. In a moment of desperation, she pressed her hand against Marco's cheek, desperate for their shared strength. Stay with me, please! His eyes fluttered, caught between pain and the depth of unyielding love. Elena, he breathed, the struggle evident in his voice. I'll always be with you, even in shadows. The world spun as she pulled him closer, tears streaming down her face. Amidst the chaos, in the symphony of betrayal and desire, love rang true. They would not be confined to the ghostly chains of family and obligation. Her heart pulsed wildly as realization dawned. The ultimate betrayal is not in the blood that binds, but in the love that unites. No more, she said through clenched teeth, feeling her voice rise above the chaos. We choose our own fate. And as the storm raged around them, she knew that even if they shoulder the weight of loss and sacrifice, love remains an unforgettable melody, one that could shatter the darkest night and illuminate a path of their own making. This was not an end, but a fierce beginning painted against the backdrop of betrayal, a promise etched deep within their hearts forever entwined in that daring symphony of love.